Heck, Kristaps Porzingis might not even suit up on Saturday when he's going to be officially eligible after passing a physical. But the fact remains that the Golden State Warriors still have to go out there and compete in these games. And the thing that was impressive to me about tonight is that it's the guys who don't get much shine. It's the guys who have been asked to do a ton throughout this year, stepping up and filling in, who essentially were the largest reason why the Warriors were victorious tonight. Pat Spencer was freaking awesome. He was 6 of 10 from distance. He hit 5 in the first half, had 20 points, a career best for him over 32 minutes, made some plays down the stretch. Guy Santos was awesome, especially in that first half during that second quarter in which the Warriors ended up going into the break leading by 4. I thought he was a major catalyst of the first half and especially that 34-point second quarter. 11 points, 7 assists. All 7 of his assists were in that first half. And then, you look at the end of the bench, you're seeing guys like Gary Payton II who are making some plays. GP2 had a big rebound on that final possession in which he nearly lost it out of bounds. Horford, the 39-year-old, goes storming into the front row to keep it in bounds after playing 28 minutes, which I don't believe he has in regulation so far this season. Last time he got that close was in Game 2, the home opener in overtime against Denver. He goes for 13 points, hits a couple of big threes, including a transition triple to draw the Warriors close to Phoenix down the stretch of that game. And again, it's all of the guys who throughout this season have not been necessarily mainstays. Horford may be a guy that's more notable, but because of sciatica, hasn't played back-to-backs, his age, has been in and out of the starting lineup, did not start tonight. The Warriors went a little bit smaller with Draymond Green at the 5 alongside Santos in the backcourt. He made plays off the bench tonight. Will Richard was a plus 16. Like, everybody kind of poured in. The one Warrior who did not play well in this game was Brandon Podziemski, who exited the game after, I think it was 4 minutes, came back, clearly didn't have it. He was not very good. But Pat Spencer picked up right where he left off. Pods goes to the bench, Spencer's in, and he absolutely takes flight tonight. It was kind of reminiscent of that 3-game stretch and the 3-game road trip where the Warriors were all about Pat, that MF for experience, right? And he was that MF for tonight. And that's what they're going to need in order to win these kinds of games. At least enough offense to get them to a place where they can play some defense. And they held Phoenix to 42 points in the second half, held them to 15 points in the fourth quarter. And that's basically where the Warriors, if they're going to win these kinds of games, have got to be when they don't have especially Steph, and while they wait for someone like Kristaps Porzingis to potentially aid them offensively. All right, 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors wrap-up after Golden State defeats Phoenix 101-97. And, I was impressed by the response by Golden State considering the day, right? You have 2 well-liked guys in the locker room, 3, I guess you could say, with TJD. Wasn't helping them a ton on the court, but if Kuminga wasn't traded, was probably expected to help Golden State on the court after the trade deadline when he was healthy. Hield, who was giving them something. And not just that, you say goodbye to 2 scorers, one of them being more of a slasher than a shooter like the other, but you say goodbye to 2 scorers on a night where you don't have your leading scorer and you don't have much to play with. I think that's probably why the Warriors, and you saw it on Tuesday too against the Sixers. The difference is the Sixers, racked up 113 points. But the Warriors are a team that's going to be living and dying by the 3. They're a team that shoots, I think, in terms of the percentages, they're number 1 in terms of three-point rate, three-point attempts. They're 11th, or were before tonight, in terms of three-point percentage. And they are 23% in terms of field goal percentage. So they're either going to make threes and keep themselves in the game, or they're going to miss a lot of threes and they're going to get dominated. And tonight they made enough threes to keep them in the game to then allow their defense to, I think, really make more of a statement of what in my mind was a little more prototypical basketball, right? They were getting downhill. Shoot, they threw it to Horford in the post a couple of times. It seemed like their best option in the fourth quarter for a few possessions there. They got out in transition. They ran. And again, they did all of this without Draymond Green. I'll get to him in a second, but to me, this was a game that was about the Spencers, the Santoses. It was about guys that have kind of been on the back burner of this thing for a while. And in terms of Pat Spencer also, I felt like this when you consolidate 3-1 at the trade deadline, which the Warriors absolutely did, you're clearing a spot for somebody or potentially multiple people. And Pat Spencer's going to have a contract. That's just how it's going to go. He's too important to this team at this current stage to be left without a roster spot. And if they don't give him one, somebody else will. I also thought it was indicative of just who he is that Pat Spencer, who was asked on NBC Sports Bay Area after the game about, kind of getting the monkey off your back. And he says, there's no monkey off the back until I get a contract. So there are a lot of things they got to work through now, but humble, put his head down, went to work tonight, had a career-high 20 points, 5 threes in the first half. Meanwhile, something that I've also quietly noticed, I know he had 6 threes, and I know a lot of people probably don't think about Spencer as a sniper. I don't know if it's going to sit above this, but Pat Spencer after tonight might be the Warriors, as far as three-point percentage is concerned, best three-point shooter. He was right at 40% coming in. Moses Moody, I believe, was at 40.7. Pat made 6 of 10 tonight. And Moses, well, I thought he played a pretty good game, and especially you saw his defense on display down the stretch. Went 2 for 7 from distance. Moses also, by the way, tied for the leading rebounder for Golden State. Did some of the more dirty work that helped them get this win. So that was one thing. Spencer's going to get a contract sometime soon. And then the guy who we haven't talked about a whole lot yet, who is probably the Warriors' I'd venture to say, honest. I mean, Spencer played well tonight, but I thought this guy was probably the most efficient or impactful player, and that was DeAnthony Melton, a guy that we know coming off the bench has played well alongside Steph, and certainly if Jimmy was still healthy, you kind of have a vision of that, 3-man combination that can do some things, especially in terms of a two-way player alongside Curry, but he gets his first start of the season tonight, which was something the Warriors had obviously been working towards, and I think will continue to, even with Butler being done. And he scores 17 points. Didn't shoot it particularly well from 3, but played hellified defense. 3 steals in this one. Had the late switch, and I think that's how, Phoenix, especially in the last 3 minutes, like they hit some, they did not hit some shots, and they missed some shots, a few makeable ones in the fourth quarter. But they basically had Brooks going one-on-one, or Gillespie or Allen waiting to kind of play off of Brooks, who wasn't going by Moody. And this is where, you think about how the Warriors, again, if this season had gone correctly, if they were adding instead of subtracting, Melton and Moody are a pretty decent switchable tandem. If the guard isn't incredibly quick, if you're looking at Dylan Brooks, who I know a lot of people may not give a ton of credit to as a scorer, this season he's averaging over 20 points a game. And you saw really in that first half how he was able to get much of what he wanted. And really it was up until the fourth quarter I'm not sure if Brooks got tired or the Warriors turned the water off. But, Moody, Melton, especially those last few possessions, they did a pretty good job of forcing Brooks into tough shots. And he didn't make them, which allowed the Warriors to get out there and run. And, if I'm the Warriors, I know that Melton is I think he's got a player option for next year that he's probably going to decline because he needs a contract. That's a guy I'm trying to bring back if I'm Golden State. It's funny. I was talking to someone about Melton on Tuesday night, and he was with the Sixers. And this guy had been with Philly for about 5 years. And he was talking about Melton, who had been there. I think Melton was with Philly now 2 or 3 years ago. But Melton is a guy that he said, if you took away the injury history, you took away some of the unfortunate stuff that's happened to him, as far as his body kind of breaking down, everybody wants a DeAnthony Melton. Like, everybody wants to get their hand on that player. And I think the hope from here until the end of the year is Melton plays well, stays healthy, sees what the Warriors hopefully are able to, kind of sell him on, which right now admittedly is not much, but you sell him on next season, playing with Steph, what they can do together. Maybe there's an addition coming this summer. Maybe Porzingis helps down the stretch. And you try and bring him back next year, because I think that this is a guy, number one, who can do a lot of different things when he's on the court on both ends of the floor. And he's one of the few players the Warriors have currently that's in his prime. And that's a dude who's helped you. There's no doubt about it. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm trying to bring Melton back, absolutely. All right, the other part of this game that we do have to talk about, and we are taking your calls, by the way, at 888-957-9570. If you want to talk about the game, the Warriors winning tonight 101-97 after trading Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, Trace Jackson-Davis for essentially Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick. How you're feeling about tonight, the Warriors, the game, all of it. We are taking your calls and your comments. But the other part of this game that just has to be mentioned is the Warriors doing it without Draymond Green. And I thought they played pretty well tonight with him on the floor up until he left the floor, and then they turned it up to a different level. Draymond was a non-factor for the majority of this game, and he's been a non-factor on a lot of nights for the majority of this season. But this is the kind of game where, and look, Draymond hit a three. I think it was right before he left, a little before the 7-minute mark. He was a part of the Warriors' 22-5 run that they ended the game on, which obviously helped them beat Phoenix. But this was the kind of game, and the Warriors finished on, I think it was a 16-2 run without him. The defense, to me, looked switchable. It looked fast. It looked quick. And again, it's against a Phoenix team without Devin Booker. Allen goes down with 3 minutes left. But still, the fact remains, they gave up 2 points in the last 6+ minutes of this basketball game, and they did it without, quote-unquote, their best or most impactful defensive player. That, to me, is notable. And it's the end of that game reminded me of, it was 2 years ago, might have been around this time. Maybe, actually, I think it was after the All-Star break. But 2 years ago in Brooklyn, it's kind of a meaningless East Coast swing. Warriors at the time were headed towards a play-in appearance and loss. But Guy Santos, who also was good tonight, he closed over Klay Thompson 2 years ago. Excuse me. And it was sort of the beginning of the end, in my mind, for Klay and his time in Golden State. The Warriors won that game. Klay Thompson did not close. Guy Santos was in down the stretch. And again, it was a Brooklyn team. They weren't very good, kind of reminiscent of what Phoenix looked like tonight. But it was against this bad, depleted opponent. But the reality is, in that game a few years ago, the Warriors did not need Klay Thompson to close the game out and win. And tonight, they did not need Draymond Green to, number one, close the game, but I would say more importantly, to get back into the game. I mean, they were down 10 in the fourth quarter after looking largely lifeless and not having pretty much anybody that they could go to offensively. They had to do this by turning off Phoenix's water for a long period of time, which to their credit they did. And they did it without a guy that's supposed to be an all-defensive caliber player. So again, it just sort of reminded me of a couple of years ago. And it just you put it in the file, you keep a receipt of it, and at the end of this year, when the Warriors are making their evaluations or figuring out what to do, because Draymond Green's contract, just like it was before today, was on the table in a potential deal, I think it's going to be again this summer. And that's sort of the shift in their relationship. And I'm sure Draymond knows it. I'm sure he feels it. And games like tonight, especially on the heels of everything that's gone on, probably don't make him feel any better. In fact, you can make the argument that the guys who weren't in these trade talks played the best tonight. And the guys who felt the weight of the rumors and the deadline, those guys didn't play very well. Draymond did not play well tonight. Pods looked awful tonight. Those are the guys who've kind of been in the mix along with Kuminga for potentially being moved. And they did not respond well to it. Conversely, you could make the argument that the guys who, of course, were not in a lot of those talks, they probably felt like a weight was lifted. All right, it's time to go play. All right, he's gone. Nobody expects us to win tonight. Spencer, all right, give me the ball. Santos, fine, I'll take this three. There's no problem. Because making a mistake in a game like this is not gonna kill you. You can only go out there and play as hard as you can, and I think that was the difference to me between tonight and Tuesday against Philly. It was just simply effort. And where you saw it was on the defensive end of the floor. 101 points ain't nothing to write home about, but allowing 2 points over the last 6 minutes of an NBA game, that is something that you can hang your hat on, and that comes down to energy and effort. And I think that's what the Warriors absolutely showed tonight. All right, 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's go to our guy, Chardal, in Fremont. Chardal, what's going on, baby? Talk to me. How we feeling? We're 1-0 without post-deadline. What's up?
I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. You make some great content videos on the platform. As the Golden State Warriors take down the Suns by a score of 101-97 without Steph Curry, I mean, that's something in its own right. Is a big accomplishment to win without Steph Curry on the floor. We snap our 2-game losing streak behind Pat Spencer's career night. He fuels a comeback. Warriors raise a double-digit deficit for the win. He finished the night with 20.6 straight runs and 4 assists. And given the current trajectory and the outcome of the Phoenix game, I'm projected the Warriors are going to finish 44-38 to end the 2026 season, and this will land them right in the heart of the play, right in the play-in tournament around the 7th or 8th seed. But it was great calling to Warriors wrap-up, and I'll definitely call in every time, man. I love coming in and the interaction with everybody on here is absolutely amazing, man. I'll definitely call in next time and keep the show rocking.
Absolutely. Saturday against the Lakers. Talk to you then, Chardal. I think it's on Saturday, right? Lakers? Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll talk to you then. Warriors 1-0 since the deadline. Undefeated. No, it's always a tough day. And I think a lot of people are still feeling the ripple effects of what happened. Or I should say, I mean, it happened last night, but, waking up today, some of you seeing the news, listening to it all day. I mean, it was the talk of Radio Row on 95.7 The Game. Shoot, even walking around, talking to a few people who are not from the Bay Area who, hey, you guys are the Warriors flagship. What's going on here? What are the Warriors doing? Well, I can tell you that tonight they play Phoenix and on Saturday they play the Lakers, but what are they doing? I'm not necessarily sure that they know. And that was kind of my takeaway from the deadline. But I also think that is what makes tonight a little easier, or makes I should say that the day easier for Warriors fans, because I think it was last year in Utah when they traded Wiggins and they obviously got Jimmy Butler back and they went on a run. They played well. But that night in Utah, it was in Salt Lake City, I think they blew a game late to the Jazz, and it was like, you can't be feeling good after one of your favorite teammates gets traded and you lose a tight game to a bad team. And again, the Warriors were underdogs tonight. They were on the road. Phoenix is a team that's 10 games above 500, 3 in front of them in the West. But this was a game where the Warriors, I thought they might have rolled over, especially after that third quarter where, they made a lot of threes. It reminded me a little bit of Tuesday night where against the Sixers, they came out, they knocked down 8 of 13 from 3. They were up 1, and then the shots along with their momentum just slowly sort of dissipated throughout the evening. Tonight, it was sort of the same deal. I mean, they got a lot of threes up. They took 18 of their first 19 field goal shots from 3. And I don't think that's necessarily a strategic thing, outside of the fact that nobody can go by anybody. Nobody really can create shots for others. And it's just simply pass, dribble, get a good look, take the first open 3, be on about your way, hope it goes in, and play good defense on the other end. They took 55 3-pointers and they scored 101 points. That's not necessarily efficient. But if you play hard enough on defense, you can win a game like that. What does it mean in the grand scheme of things? I think what a game like tonight sort of signals to me is, and I think we sort of knew this, and who knows if it'll be a foolish strategy, but the Warriors are not looking to tank. They're not. It's just, I think when someone like Steph Curry is healthy, or will be, obviously didn't play tonight, you have to try as hard as you can. And on most nights, that's not going to be good enough. Like, this effort against a lot of teams is not going to get the Warriors into the win column. But it also shows with the kind of, again, commitment they made, I think, to each other to just play hard on a day like today. That can't be easy when you got guys that are going in and out of the locker room and you're not really sure where the organization's going. Because this is the other part about today, too. I don't think the Warriors necessarily told us what their plans are for the future. I think they kind of kicked the can down the road and did their best to turn a player who the coach was not going to play or didn't fit in Kuminga and turned him into a player that might help you if he's healthy. Now, obviously, he's got a long injury history, but that's the only reason why the Warriors were able to get, I think, a talent, if he does play, like Kristaps Porzingis in the first place. You know, and it's kind of interesting in a weird way. It's probably the same reason why DeAnthony Melton is a Golden State Warrior. You know, Melton signed with Golden State before last season and had to take a lesser deal because he didn't play enough games with the Sixers to warrant a multi-year contract. Then he tears his ACL last year. Okay, well, there goes another year for Melton. Now he has to sign an vet min deal, comes back to the Warriors because it's a fit, and now we'll see if they can keep him this summer. Because if he stays healthy throughout the rest of the year, throughout the rest of the season, I think he's proven that he's good enough to get a contract from somebody, and probably more than a one-year flyer. So the Warriors have been able to use, you know, a player's shortcomings or baggage, so to speak, not necessarily off the court, but, you know, you kind of catch my drift, able to use some of that to get some quality players in here and to find some hidden gems. And that's what they're hoping Kristaps Porzingis can be. I don't think it's a magnificent move. I don't think it's a bad move. But it's a move that is a low risk, a high reward move, and you might get something from it. You might be able to pivot off of it at the end of the year, or you might be able to use it in a potential sign and trade. You know, the Warriors can try and pull that off. So but the fact remains that they're going to try. And I guess, you know, to me is just it's more of a confirmation of what I believe this season was already going to be at the, you know, beyond the trade deadline, which is playing as hard as possible until the season eventually makes the decision for you. Like, the Warriors are not choosing to tank. That's not how this season is going to go. They may get there naturally, but this ain't a team intent on losing games and giving up on this season. You know, again, it could be could prove to be a futile effort, but I think you have to respect the guys who have not been in the spotlight, even some of the guys who haven't been in the rumor mill during the trade deadline, and their gumption. Shout out Big Crit. That's what you got to respect about these guys out there tonight that busted their ass and came away with a win on a night where I think everybody in that gym in Phoenix was expecting the Warriors just to roll over, kind of similar to how they did on Tuesday. Appreciate Dylan Palmer chiming in with those euros in our YouTube chat. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. 888-957-9570 is the number. We're going to step aside here on Warriors wrap-up comeback for our final segment. We'll hear from Steve Kerr on the other side and talk a little bit more about the big picture stuff from today and the trade deadline. Of course, taking your calls, your comments, your texts on the Boxer & Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. Also got our GOAT report coming up. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you back after this 95.7 The Game.
What if the greatest player on the court wasn't who you expected? This February, get ready for heart, hustle, and a whole new kind of hero in Sony's GOAT, the animated sports adventure for the whole family. From the team behind Unforgettable Stories and executive produced by Steph Curry comes a movie about believing in yourself, defying the odds, and proving that greatness can come from anywhere. Don't miss Sony's GOAT, exclusively in movie theaters February 13th. Bring the family, feel the fun, and witness the rise of a true GOAT. GOAT, rated PG, only in theaters February 13th.
Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
The smartest way to spend your money is not to. Straight Talk offers free 5G phones for new and existing customers on Verizon's 5G network. So the refund money I don't spend on that free phone is the refund money I get to keep for my family. Smart.
Find us at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Taxes and fees apply. Plan purchase required for free phone offers. Copyright 2026 Verizon.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Charlie's battery is struggling to start. Not ideal before the tailgate, so he goes to AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone,
where a friendly AutoZoner tests his battery for free. Looks like he needs a new one, so he gets a Duralast battery.
have fun and stay warm.
And he makes it to the tailgate early enough to get his favorite spot. Free battery testing and charging. No hassles, just help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, save up to $700, plus get a free adjustable base with select Sealy Posturepedic mattresses. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Listen all week as 95.7 The Game broadcasts live from Radio Row in San Francisco. Join the Morning Roast with Shasky and Spadoni from 6 to 10 a.m., Steiny and Guru from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Willard and Dibbs from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day this week, live to hear all of the big guests, big news, and everything that is happening here in San Francisco for the big game. Brought to you by Waymo. Kick off the big game with autonomous rides. Get around the city with Waymo, the world's most experienced driver. Download the Waymo app and ride today.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Tyler from San Francisco. Alejandro and Salvador came to fix our gate, and they were 10 out of 10. They fixed our issue super fast and were awesome to deal with.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with RNS Doors, and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when a door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
Hey, it's Willard for Underdog. Football's biggest game right around the corner. Time to get in on this action with Underdog right now in California. If you're not on Underdog yet, now's the time. New customers score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you make your first $5 entry. More on that later. Playing on Underdog, very easy. Get your players, pick if they're going higher or lower on stats like touchdowns and yards. Pair them together, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash, plus new promos are dropping daily in the app. You need to check them out. Great opportunities. The games lately, these are good defenses, so I would think in this one as well. I lean lower on a lot of these numbers. Download the app today. Use my promo code Willard to score that $75 in bonus entries. Again, my promo code is Willard. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 or over and present in California. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play? 1-800-GAMBLER or ncpgambling.org.
The NFL is taking over the Bay Area with Super Bowl experience presented by Jersey Mike's. February 3rd through 7th at the Moscone Center, North and South. Dive into an immersive football festival celebrating all 32 teams, plus interactive games, player autographs, photos with the Vince Lombardi Trophy, exclusive NFL shop merchandise, and much more. It's the ultimate Super Bowl week event with fun for all ages. Tickets start at just $40 and kids 12 and under attend for free. Visit superbowl.com to buy your tickets today.
Paid for by the Bay Area Host Committee.
Hey, Joy. Oh, you are glowing.
Oh, hey. More like Mirajoyed. That Miralax helped me go. I was so backed up. Tried mega coffees, prune juice, everything. Then Miralax. And hello, gentle relief without the harsh side effects.
Ooh, how does it work?
It works naturally with the water in your body for constipation relief. Find Miralax today at your local retailer.
Use as directed for occasional constipation.
Ball thrown into Brooks. Brooks with a dribble. Down the right side. Guarded by Moody. Ball knocked away. Brooks gets it back. 15 on the shot clock. 20 on the game clock. Brooks right sideline. Gets Melton with 10 on the shot clock. Still dribbling. Brooks trying to back his way down. Backs up for a three. It's on the way. It won't go. Payton's got the rebound. And he is fouled. No call. Horford saves the ball. Far side. Moody has it. Moody tips it ahead to Melton. Melton on a breakaway. Lays it in at the buzzer. They're going to count the basket. The game's over. The Warriors have stolen one here in the Valley of the Sun. Tell the bus driver, get that thing started. Get the plane warmed up. Get out of here before something else happens.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, that was a great call by Tim Roy. He broke down just about everything. I mean, from the loose ball, GP2 got the rebound. I don't know if he nearly got fouled. From the angle on television, it looked like he almost just threw it out of bounds. Horford goes damn near diving into the first row to keep it in. The one thing I did notice in the box score, at least originally when it happened, they didn't give Moses the assist, who kind of like loose ball tips it out to Melton, who's on the breakaway. And then I got to say this. Did anybody else notice, and I don't know if this is illegal or not, Steph was about halfway to midcourt before the buzzer. If you watch it again, Steph is on the three-point line as Melton is gliding in for the game-winning basket and before time expires. I don't know what the refs were supposed to do with that, if any. It kind of reminded me of like a college game towards the end where a team that's not supposed to win is, going in for that last layup. No one gives and the team jumps off the bench and then they flood the floors. Kind of seemed like that. And also, it's probably why I think this was Dalton Johnson who tweeted this, who's down in Phoenix, works for NBC Sports Bay Area, that it was a very loud locker room. There was a loud celebration from Golden State, who wins tonight against the Phoenix Suns, 101-97. 888-957-9570 is the number. The Warriors get it done with defensive grittiness. They do it without Draymond Green. For the last 6+ minutes of this game, they give up 2 points without Draymond, and they come back from down 16 in the fourth quarter, and they beat Phoenix. Close within 3 of the 7 seed, and Porzingis is coming. I don't know. Maybe the season isn't over for the Dubs. All right. Can we take this call? All right. Before we get to Steve Kerr and some Draymond Green sound that's coming up in just a little bit here on Warriors Wrap Up, let's go out stay in the city. Talk to our guy, Ben. Ben, what's going on? You're on with Evan Giddings. How are you?
Hey, Evan. I'm pretty good. I can't lie. That win, those last few minutes felt really, really great, really reminiscent of a lot of those team wins, those strength and number wins. I know I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I'm not expecting that for the rest of the season. This is just this moment. Who knows what the team will look like? I'm expecting a lot of more difficult games in the future. And like you were saying, who knows what it'll look like once Porzingis is integrated or not. But I was going to ask you if you feel like with the young guys that are left on this roster, if you see this kind of panning out like it did maybe in, 2020, 2021, right before that 22 championship. I know it's just one game, but could this be the beginning of like Will Richard and Guy Santos and Pat Spencer showing that they can actually contribute at a more meaningful level? And who knows, maybe we'll just make things interesting down the road. So I'm still enjoying the win. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Ben. It's interesting you bring up that year because that was one that I was thinking about a lot around the deadline, and one that to me it does, let's say, 2020/2021, those two seasons are kind of where I think the Warriors are in the middle of. They're not quite as bad as they were in 2020, and they're certainly not as good as they were in 2021. I mean, they're 6 games above 500, and without Jimmy, I think it's going to be hard to play above or maybe even 500 basketball. But I think your point about can you find something on this roster during, I don't want to call it a lost year, because if you find something, maybe there's a piece that pops, then to me this year could potentially be worth it if you gear up for next year. Maybe it's Porzingis that is a player you find. Maybe it could be a Guy Santos who's still relatively young. I'm not sure if it's him or Spencer, but I think Spencer's established himself as certainly when Steph is back, the backup point guard. I've felt like this for a long time, and he obviously didn't play well tonight, but you saw it on Tuesday. Like, Podziemski he's not a point guard. He's not. He's an off guard. And when he has the ball in his hands, he makes mistakes. And tonight was obviously an awful night for him, but I think to me Spencer is more of a true point and can play the backup spot. I think he still gets into trouble sometimes, but if that 3-point percentage is close to 40, Like, that's valuable. The Warriors right now only have 2 players shooting above 40% from three-point range. Pat Spencer and Moses Moody. Technically, I think TJD had the 1-3 the end of the game against Miami. So he's shooting 1,000%, was before he got traded to Toronto. But point being, yeah, I think Spencer's proven that he deserves a contract. And the Warriors are going to have to make a choice because this is the last game on his 2-way deal. So they have to either sign him or they could allow another team to go pick him up, which I believe after a night like tonight when he scores a career-high 20, a team might be apt to do, especially a team in a worse position than the Warriors. But in 2021, I think where the connection is for me is like you're figuring out which players fit, which players don't fit, right? So in 2020, the Warriors, and this is where I think the Porzingis deal does factor in a little bit. Porzingis is a trade that the Warriors looked at as a low-risk, high-reward. If he works, he can play center, obviously. He's got great talent. He can put up numbers alongside Steph. Who knows if he stays healthy? That, to me, is in a few ways what D'Angelo Russell into Andrew Wiggins was. D'Lo is a player that had talent, was an all-star in Brooklyn. They knew that KD was going to leave, so they used a sign and trade to get something for him. They keep the salary slot, and they turn it into a player who is a reclamation project. Now, obviously, Wiggins was far healthier than Porzingis was, but he was not looked at as a good contract. That was a sunk cost the Warriors bought, had a pick attached to it, which eventually turned into JK. So from that standpoint, you turn Kuminga and Buddy Hield, but you turn a player who doesn't fit into a player who potentially could fit. And that, to me, is where there's a connection between there. In 2021, you found out that a guy like Kelly Oubre, who they paid an exorbitant amount of money through the luxury tax to acquire, he didn't fit. And you're going to find out on this team, maybe it's a couple of players who just don't fit or are no longer best for this team. One of those players could be Brandon Podziemski. One of those players could be Draymond Green. Heck, could be Quentin Post, who's now looking on the outside end of the rotation because the Warriors basically just got a better stretch 5, should he play. And even so, tonight, Quentin Post only played 6 minutes in a game where they had no other setters besides him and Al Horford. If you want to put Draymond Green in that category, you can. But the point is the Warriors played pretty small tonight. It was a lot of small ball out there on the floor. To end the game, GP2, Guy Santos, DeAnthony Melton, Moses Moody, Pat Spencer. Nobody there is above 6'6". Moses and Guy were the tallest guys on the floor. So it doesn't necessarily bode well for those guys. But I hear your point, and I think it's interesting. The Warriors can use the rest of this year, to evaluate and define if there's somebody who can not just help them, maybe sneak into the playoffs, and for next year, gear up and try and make another run at it before you got to make some big decisions at the end of 2027 in regards to your aging superstar and Steph Curry. To me, Draymond's kind of moved out of that conversation of which guy you got to, make a choice about. And I think he's kind of come to that realization. All right. 888-957-9570 is the number. We're going to hear from Draymond in a moment, but until then, we're going to listen to Steve Kerr in his entirety. It's about 7 minutes post-game after the Warriors won 101-97 down in Phoenix.
A celebration?
Yeah. Felt like we won the championship. We needed that. We needed it.
Why would you describe why it was such a big win?
Just the emotion of everything, the last 2 days, losing, 3 of our guys who were beloved in the locker room and losing Jimmy, to season-ending injury, Steph being out. It just, everything has just been, tough this last week or 10 days and whatever it is since Jimmy's been out. And it felt like a great team win where everybody just fought and competed and stayed with it. And it was a beautiful thing to watch.
What do you feel like flipped defensively down the stretch there, the 25-7 run?
Yeah, I mean, they had it going for a while. Gillespie really had it rolling. They forced a bunch of turnovers in the second half. I think we had 2 at halftime and 13 in the second half. They picked up their defense and, down the stretch, we were able to take care of the ball and keep them out of transition. And we guarded them in the half court really well all night. And I thought the last possession really was kind of emblematic of our defensive effort. I mean, Moses staying in front of Brooks, and then Melt switching onto him. The fight for the rebound, Gary getting the rebound, Al saving, and then Moses going up to get it. It was really just an amazing display of grit to finish the game. It was pretty awesome.
How good was Pat Spencer tonight?
That was great. I mean, he got his chance again, and we saw that obviously for that stretch, when he played 5 or 6 games. And I just think the biggest thing for Pat is just to shoot the three, let it rip. And he had that mentality. He took 3 threes in the first minute or so, and that's the right mentality for him. And when he shoots that shot, even if he doesn't make it, it sets up the offense. We can crash. We can get offensive boards. There's a flow to the game. So if people want to go under screens or don't pay attention to him, he's got to let it fly like he did tonight.
Steve's first start this season. Do you expect to start him going forward?
I don't know. We're trying to just sort through everything right now with the injuries. His minutes. He's at a 24-minute limit right now, which is doable in the starting lineup. You saw he ended up at 24-43, so I went 43 seconds over. I hope I don't get in trouble from Rick, but it is tricky with no back-to-backs for him, for Al. Right now we're just trying to piece it together and kind of keep our head above water until we can get healthier and get a more consistent rotation.
You guys were on pace to set an NBA record for three-point attempts through the first half. Was that by design to shoot that much from out there, or was that just the way the game was? It's
kind of the way we play, honestly. We don't, especially without Jimmy, we don't have a lot of guys who are going to score in the paint or get fouled. And so we're trying to spread the floor, play 5 out. If we have a 3, we have to take it, crash, get extra possessions. And if we can make some like we did in that first half, then teams come out, and now we can penetrate and drive and kick. So I know it's a lot of threes, but I think it's kind of how we have to play.
Coach, now that Trace's trade is official, what can you say about his impact?
I can talk about him now.
Yeah. Official.
Trace was great. Just a wonderful young guy who played well for us. Great second-round pick to be able to come in and do what he did, but also to be such a great part of the team. He's just a friendly soul, and he's really talented, and there just weren't minutes for him here, and so we think it's a good opportunity for him to move on, and hopefully he gets more playing time in Toronto. But getting Kristaps means the minutes are really going to be limited for Trace. So I think this was a good move for him, but we're going to miss him. He had a great presence about him.
Coach, going back to the 55 three-point attempts you guys took in this game, are you using the same pick-and-roll offense that you and Uncle Mo used back in the Cavs back in the day?
Oh, my gosh. Who put you up to this?
Paul McKeskey.
Paul McKeskey did? Yeah. Yeah, we used to run a lot of the pick-and-pop stuff. Anytime you can put 2 of the slowest guys in the league together in a pick-and-pop, it's almost impossible to stop. So, yeah, the Kerr McKeskey pick and roll. I think they're still talking about it in Cleveland, actually.
He's still talking about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah.
Coach, beyond the energy DeSantos always bring to the court, tonight he played the most minutes on the team with almost 36. He scored a season-high 18 points and had a career-high 7 assists. What was his impact in today's win, and how would you describe his potential as a passer as well?
He has been fantastic now, the last few weeks, just his playmaking. Especially without Jimmy now, we're going to rely on Guy to make plays. He's very deceptive with his moves. He has a knack for getting into the paint and then kicking the ball to the right guy and finding open shooters. But he's also shooting the ball well himself, and he's playing at a really, really high level right now.
You're sensing more confidence from him attacking with his dribble.
Yeah, a lot more confidence, and this is how it works. I mean, you get consistent minutes. You have the confidence of your teammates and the staff. That's when you really blossom, and I feel like Guy is blossoming right now.
Steve, to follow up on Pat, he's always a guy that doesn't play with much fear, but now that he's hit that 50-game mark, he knows he's going to get converted. Do you think there's almost a sense of relief to really...
It is for me, I can tell you. I'm relieved that, I was really worried that, we were going to lose him after 50 games and not be able to do anything. So it's a relief to now get him on the main roster, and you can see what he's capable of. What he did out there tonight was fantastic.
He absolutely was. That was Steve Kerr after the 101-97 win against the Phoenix Suns. This is Warriors wrap-up on 95-7 The Game. Got about 10 minutes left here until the top of the hour, and then we'll get you on your way. But 888-957-9570 for any final thoughts. Also do want to read this text from Pleasant Hill Pete. Love to see the post-Kuminga clarity hit the Dubs in the fourth quarter. Inspiring stuff. Can't kick a man while he's down, Pete. He's on his way to Atlanta. Kuminga's going to be joining a front court of Reece Shea and Jalen Johnson and Naw. By that, I mean Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Come on, man. Although I will say, it's tonight in the fourth quarter is just a classic example of, energy and effort can absolutely win you games. Is it going to win you games all the time? No, that's why the Warriors are now 3-5 since Jimmy Butler's injury. But against a depleted, shorthanded Phoenix team, even as underdogs on the road, they can make it happen. So that's kind of the micro. The macro is obviously all the stuff that happened last night leading into the trade deadline today. The Warriors moving Buddy Hield and JK for Porzingis and Trayce Jackson-Davis. You heard Steve Kerr talking about probably not a lot of room for him with Porzingis coming in, so they flip him to Toronto for a second-round pick. And who knows, Mike Dunleavy Jr.'s had a pretty good past of picking second-rounders, including Trayce Jackson-Davis himself. Also found it kind of interesting. He traded a player represented by his brother. Let's see, Mike D's all about business. Speaking of business, Draymond Green was asked kind of in the aftermath of him not being moved, just how weird this week's been for him.
It's been a weird 24 hours. Everybody kind of just sitting on the edge of the trade deadline. And then obviously the trade, you lose two guys that you got relationships with, three guys actually, that you have relationships with. But that is the business that we're in. Shorthanded. Came out tonight, down 14 in the fourth quarter. Guys continue to fight and come out with a big-time win after a long week. Says a lot about the character of the group.
And Draymond, when did you know that you would be a Golden State Warrior after the deadline? This is such an interesting line of questioning. Okay.
Today at 1, Phoenix time.
Phoenix time. 1 o'clock Phoenix time. That's when he knew that he would be a Golden State Warrior. All right, was it nerve-wracking? Okay, come on.
It got nerve-wracking towards the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is, move forward. It's not something I want to get used to, though.
Well, I hate to break it to you, buddy. It's that time in your career. Who was it that brought this up? Shoot, there was a player across the NBA who was talking about this. Oh, hell, it was Buddy Hield. It was a couple days ago. Buddy was being asked about, just what it's like to be in the rumor mill and kind of when he realized that his career was getting to a stage where he's a guy that's going to be in trade talks, not necessarily because teams, are obsessed with a shooter or a potential scorer, but because you're on a contract that's tradable. Draymond Green is now a contract that is tradable. And I hate to break it to him, if the Warriors are going to make a move this summer, he is going to be involved. And so you don't want to get used to it. I think Buddy Hield referenced that's what happened to Russ Westbrook. That's what happened to CP3. And both those players individually, some might scoff at this, but I hope you're with me. Both those players are better than Draymond Green. Their careers and their resumes are a lot longer. All right, here's what Draymond Green talked to Mike Dunleavy about.
We just talked some trade stuff. We talked about possible trade. We talked about other stuff that could happen.
All right, and how Kristaps Porzingis can complement Draymond Green.
Well, for me personally, I love when, there's another rim protector on the floor, because then I could, stuff that I see, I can act on it. When I'm the only rim protector, stuff that I see and make want to act on, you can't do that because you just lead the rim. It's kind of like you watch football? You don't watch no football. You watch football? Who your team?
Vikings.
Oh, they never won. No, but, there's great defensive ends, and then there's defensive ends that don't stick to their assignment. They just want the sack. And you run the ball right in the gap that they left because they just shot upfield trying to get a sack. It's kind of like that with rim protection. If you just take off because you see something, all of a sudden it don't work. Then you got no rim protection. You just broke contain. You just broke the scheme because of something that you saw or that you wanted to do. When there's another rim protector out there, you can take those chances, and so I've always enjoyed playing with another rim protector on the floor. I just think it really unlocks everything that I can do defensively.
And there's Draymond Green. Look, okay, well, a couple things. Number one, he was talking about how the Vikings stink and they haven't won anything. Do we know if Draymond Green is a Lions fan? He's from Michigan. They literally never played in a Super Bowl. That's neither here nor there. The second part of it is, I think it is true. If Kristaps Porzingis can play for the Warriors and is effective, he will help Draymond, because Draymond Green is more of a ceiling raiser than a floor raiser. On a team like this, to me, his impact is not necessarily felt, and he's not playing his best basketball this season. But if they are playing in more meaningful games, which, by the way, I think the Warriors are kind of destined for, because the team behind them in the Western Conference right now is 4 games back, and it's the LA Clippers, who just traded James Harden and Zubats and did not get any better at the deadline. The team behind them is Portland, who is still not as good, though they've beaten the Warriors. They're 4.5 back. To me, the Warriors can slip no further, knock on wood, than 8. I think that this game that they played tonight against Phoenix is going to be the game that they play at the end of the season. Whether they're good or not, whether people like watching them or not, it's just going to be difficult for them to fall any further than 8, in my opinion. I think it's also going to be incredibly difficult for them to go anywhere up beyond 8. So they're stuck right now in play-in land. And to me, that's why tonight, as far as standings, tiebreakers, conference record is concerned, I know it's all under the umbrella of the deadline and, maybe Curry being out and all this. But to me, that's a game that was a good win for them. Right? You beat a team that's in front of you, close the gap a little bit, get a win that might matter at the end of the season, because, again, my big takeaway from tonight is the Warriors are not choosing to tank. It could happen naturally depending on an injury. Maybe Porzingis helps. Maybe he doesn't get on the court. Maybe he comes back to the court, gets hurt. But the Warriors, their effort and their energy tonight tells me that they're still going to try and make as much as they can out of this season, and that I absolutely have to respect. All right, big thanks to everybody who called in tonight, everybody who chimed in on our YouTube chat, our text line, Boxer and Gerson, working to return his text line. Also, real fast, do have to mention the GOAT Report, which breaks down Steph Curry's game, brought to you by Sony Pictures. GOAT, executive produced by Steph Curry, exclusively in movie theaters February 13th. This is a segment where we debuted on Tuesday night. Unfortunately, he has not played in any of these games. But what I can tell you about Steph Curry, number one, it'll probably be a game-time decision on Saturday for the Lakers with runner's knee. Number two, got lucky tonight. He didn't get that tech walking out on the court at the end of the game because might have waved off the buzzer beater if Steph had been caught at the three-point line. That's all I'm saying. But Steph hopefully is going to be back against the Lakers on Saturday. And also Kristaps Porzingis, potentially available for Saturday's game. Coming back off illness, hasn't played basketball, I think, all but 3 times since the end of November. So hopefully looking forward to seeing those two snipers. And Porzingis is probably the longest distance shooter when it comes to centers and average length of shot in terms of threes. So it'll be fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they play against a team that's obviously more well-equipped and better served than the Phoenix Suns. So that's hopefully when we can see Steph next. And that's tonight's GOAT Report, powered by Sony Pictures. GOAT, exclusive, executive produced by Steph Curry. You can catch GOAT exclusively in movie theaters February 13th. Don't miss it. Big thank you to Ken Luttrell. Big thank you to Mark Grandy producing this thing tonight. Grandy, you're going to have Saturday, right? Oh, boy. All right. I'll be there on Saturday against the Los Angeles Lakers. All ahead right here on 95.7 The Game. Talk to you next time.
Live. Listen weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Right here on Fox Sports Radio. FS1.